All right, here we are. It's great to see everybody here. I'm in a new location. It almost looks like I got like a gaming studio room here off of like a streaming service or something like that. So I've got some work to do in terms of the setup here of this office, but it's great to be back. It's actually I think been a month since I've recorded a video. And a lot's happened in that time. We've moved to a new city called Kelowna, British Columbia, which is, now I got to pull up the map. A really beautiful place in British Columbia. We're close to the lakes, close to the mountains now. Smaller city than Vancouver, so it's awesome to be here. So lots has been happening since I have been on here recording videos. We've moved in, continued to work, and it's a lot to move to a new city and get everything set up as you're living life. Again, nothing to complain about. We've all had to do it before, but it's definitely nice to be in a new place. So if you're jumping on live today, let me know that you're here. I'm going to be following the comments and seeing if anything comes into the chat. I've got a good topic that we're bringing tonight. And when I say we're bringing, it's actually I'm bringing. It's been a discussion piece that I've had with lots of clients and just lots of conversations I've had as of late. So the topic that we're going to be looking at is finally facing the fears in your intimate relationship. As I was writing some notes on this, I was like, this really could apply to other areas of life as well. So I kind of, wish I would have broadened it, but hey, we can play with it all the more. But hopefully there'll be some good insights that you can take away from this video, bring into your own relationships, bring into your own, family relationships, with coworkers, with friends, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be checking the feed. And if you are here, just let me know if you can hear me at all. It always sucks when you record audio and then there is nothing being heard. I've done that a couple times. So let me just check here and make sure that we are running smoothly. Of course. Okay, I got Facebook users saying I can hear you. Cool. Let me know who you are in the chat. It would be great to know. Using the StreamYard service, you have to actually click a link, on the feed that says that, hey, you give permission for the stream to have your name on it. I was going to speak to that actually. Annoying feature of StreamYard now, they all of a sudden brought this thing out where when you create a Facebook event, it automatically creates a live event attached to your video, which I find kind of annoying. The way they had it set up before was perfectly fine. At least make it as an optional feature so you can turn it on or off. But it's what I've got now, and yeah, it's unfortunate. It makes it so you have to do a little bit more work to get the feed up. Um, Anything I also want to talk about before we get started? Besides, so cool. I can see it now. So Tracy, welcome to uh, the the show tonight. Um, so I did want to mention a couple things. So I actually just came back from the New Warrior Training Adventure with the Mankind Project over the weekend, which took place in Chilliwack Lake here in British Columbia. If you haven't heard of the Mankind Project before, it's a worldwide organization for men. There's like 77,000 men in this organization across 28 countries. And they run men's groups, both in person and live. They have leadership training, and they have these weekend events called the New Warrior Training Adventure, where guys come together and basically be in community together. If you've heard of the hero's journey before, really the basis of the training is around that. It's like an initiation into manhood. And if the interesting thing about that is that, in past times, the initiation from boyhood into adulthood or manhood, whatever you want to call it, was really like a cultural practice. Most cultures practice some form of initiation. Some were barbaric, some were not. But it's really interesting because if you look at society today, there isn't really an initiation process from boyhood into manhood. There's these organizations out in the world that are creating these things. But I will speak from my experience that it always felt like it was something that was kind of missing. In my own life, obviously I am an adult, I'm a man, uh, and I've done I've done some great trainings over the years and had great experiences, but it always felt like there was actually something missing, like guidance from elders, guidance from men who are older than me that can just support me and be there with me on this journey. So, without giving away the details of it, that was largely the experience that I had over this weekend, and I'm gonna share more about it probably next week or through a post or something like that. But it was a really, really awesome experience, and I'd highly recommend it for the men who end up watching this video, and also for you know the women who watch this on the public feed, for husbands, brothers, fathers, coworkers, all that thing. So if you're interested, check out Mankind Project. Just do a search on Google for that. There's lots of resources there on that. And yeah, happy to speak to any questions that you guys have without giving the training away. Last thing I wanted to speak to, as we are, a few minutes in, is I've actually created a new one-on-one coaching offer. So, I've been working with the Authentic Being, which has been my 6-month coaching program. It's a great program. It's requires a commitment. I don't allow people into the program unless they commit to a minimum of 6 months. And so there's a commitment of time, energy, and effort all into that program where, great things happen. So if you're interested in that, I'm happy to share more about that program with you. But one of the things I've been seeing is that not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants to make that big of a commitment to their journey at this point. So what I've actually done is created a program called the Foundations of Being. Some of the same elements of that program. What I've basically done is I've made it into a 3-month, so I call it a 3-month program, but it's realistically 12 sessions. And the way I've designed it is that the person who enrolls into that program, they get to choose when they complete those 12 sessions over a year period. So whether they want to do one session a month, whether they want to do two sessions, however they choose to do it. So it gives the individual a bit of flexibility in how they want to be on their own journey in this. So I'm interested to see what happens with it, to see if people are looking for a bit of that lesser commitment and want to get a taste of my style of coaching, and all that I bring to the table. So if that's something that you're interested in, please feel free to comment in this video or send me a message, and I'd be happy to share more of the details with you. So I'm going to do one more refresh here. I think I'm seeing the comments for the most part, and we will get going on this video on this topic. So, coming back to what we were speaking to in terms of finally breaking through the fears of your intimate relationship. And this topic has been one, as I mentioned at the beginning, that's really showed up for both clients and men that I get to talk to. And I really want to have this as a conversation for everybody to join into as well. So if you are a woman and you're looking for support on this, take what you can out of it. I mean, the focus is going to probably be more on the lens of men, but I'm sure there's going to be takeaways there. Um, and let me get one piece clear. Uh, when we talk about finally facing the fears in your intimate relationship, if you're in a relationship where there's abuse or physical violence, like that type of thing, bit of a different context. We are looking at, at least I want to put into this that, like, sure, there's elements that you can take from this, but it is a bit of a different conversation. Where I'm looking at here is where, possibly there's conflict, there's tension, there's frustration in the relationship, but like those elements of, harm aren't in the space. So keep that in mind as I'm sort of sharing. And if you have questions or thoughts around that, please again feel free to bring it into the conversation. But this is an interesting topic for myself to even reflect on, because one of the things that I've actually experienced as a coach in supporting people on this journey is that my journey into facing fears in my own intimate relationship, um, I kind of get to give myself a pat on the back, is that, I kind of jumped into action once I discovered there was a different path. That came through the book No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I was very fortunate, one, in that I saw opportunities to improve my marriage. And I also saw opportunities to improve how I was showing up at work. So that was a real big benefit for me in order to take that action. I was very clear that, like, hey, the direction that I want to go in, it's going to require me to kind of step up to the plate to choose the life that I want to create. And back in the day, when I started that journey, probably about 2017, um, I didn't really know any better. I wasn't in contact with a lot of people at that time. And to be honest, as I've gone through these years of coaching, I've seen that, like, a lot of people really need to take this slow, in terms of the conversations that they're having with their partners, taking one step at a time. And so, wherever you're at in your journey in terms of facing these fears in your intimate relationship, know that it's okay. Know that we're all on, a journey, and wherever you are at is okay. So I really want to put that out there. And as I shared my background, I mean, at least that initial part, I mean, that's literally how I saw it over the years, was small step forward, bring up a conversation that I've been avoiding, or a conversation that makes me nervous, and continually doing that again and again and again, while being supported in whatever element I was in. The support kind of came later, but I've been very fortunate in that way. Yeah, so I'll start there with that. These days, as a little side note, a lot of the fears that come up for me, I mean, I guess the most immediate place is within my coaching business, is holding space for people and potentially challenging people in some of the places that they don't want to look, and really standing for the life that they want to create. And so that shows up in a host of ways. That's where a lot of the fear shows up for me now, and still does show up in for me in my own relationship as well. So I'm not immune to this. We're there's a journey for all of us in this. But so let me know some of the comments that you've got around this. What fears come up for you in relationship? What are the things that you've been avoiding to have conversations about? Let me know. Let me know in the comments what come up for you, or even if you're like, I don't really want to put that in the comments, please feel free to send me a message on that. So here's a couple of the places that I see. Uh, some of the common themes of that bring up fear in men. And again, I'm going to say primarily in men. I imagine that some of these show up for women as well, but let's focus on the side of men. So, sex, intimacy, money, asking for your wants and needs to be met, responsibilities. Um, those are sort of the key ones. There'd be more. Those were the ones that I wrote down, but those are some big ones that really show up again and again. Um, so again, these are the common ones. Again, there might be sort of variations on these, but again, these are the ones that show up. So what what I often see is that generally there's not just one area. Generally, if there's sex and intimacy issues, there's going to be communication issues. There may even be like power dynamics there. If there's money issues, there's generally issues around getting wants and needs met. So like it's generally not one clear lane in a sense of where these fears come up. So again, look for yourself in terms of some of those themes, like what's present for you. The fir- the first place I want to look at and really getting clear for yourself is what are the benefits of actually facing these fears? What are the benefits of you actually getting out of your comfort zone the way things are now and actually standing for the relationship that you want to create? Oftentimes, this can be a pretty scary place because our lives have been designed for comfort. And in intimate relationships, these patterns have been in place for quite a while. So, the fact of, okay, I'm going to now address something that I've been avoiding can be challenging. So that is one of the first places to look is like, what are the actual benefits of you stepping into this fear? What's the what for in it? So getting really clear on that is really powerful. And then the other place of this is looking at the cost. Like, what are the costs if you actually don't do this? What are the costs if things stay the same in your relationship? What is that going to do? Is it going to create more resentment? Is it going to create more frustration? Might it create divorce? Might it create a life where there's a lot of emptiness in the relationship? Maybe the partner leaves. Again, like getting clear on what the cost might potentially be. This is really the first place to look because this is the foundation of why you're stepping into this fear. Um, from there, I would start to look at like, well, okay, so you're aware of the benefits and you're aware of the cost of taking action or not taking action. And then the next place to really get clear on is like, what are the conversations that need to happen? Do you need to have a conversation around sex and intimacy? Do you need to have a conversation about the wants and needs that you have or your partner has? Do you need to have a conversation about communication and how your partner might belittle you or insult you or even vice versa, just the communication dynamics there. Couple other places to look. Do you need to have a conversation about money? Do you need to have a conversation about spending money? Do you need to have a conversation about getting something that you want in your life or taking a vacation or going on a trip for yourself, maybe even going on a trip for the family? I mean, there's endless places that you can look at. um, so really that's the next place to look at is what are the conversations that you've been avoiding, getting clear on that, making sure that you're documenting those as well. So and again, it's not documenting them so then you can go to your partner and be like, okay, I've got this list of all the things I've been avoiding. This is that part about taking that small step. Maybe for this week, you go and have one of these conversations. So as you can see, by getting clear on the costs and the benefits and getting clear on the places that have been avoided, you start to get an idea of where you need to go. So let me know what questions you have on this, what you've tried around this. Um, the next place that I would have you look at is what are some of the where does this fear come from? And actually sitting with like what's underneath the fear that is present for you? What's been underneath the fear that has made it so you've been unwilling to face it? Um, and this is a really interesting one where you could look at dynamics from childhood, right? How did your mother respond when there was conflict or things needed to be addressed in the home? How did your father respond? What was the flavor of communication that you had with him? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be the mother father dynamics. You could look at other family members as well or the caregiver that you had. That's a really good place for starting to look at is there a possible connection between how you're relating in your intimate relationship to conversations and conflict, and potentially where that fear is coming from? There's a great book called Getting the Love You Want. I cannot remember the author's name right now, but again, that's what our beautiful friend Google can do, is help you search this. Um, that is a great book at actually looking at relationship dynamics that potentially came from who parented us, and how the style of parenting, led us to go after the partner that we had. So I'm not going to go too far down that path, because I'll just ramble on, but like that's a great place to look at those dynamics. Looking at where this fear comes up for you. So, for myself, I know for a fact that one of the fears that comes up for me in relationship is being with the emotion that my partner can have at times. And it's not like the emotion is, you know, out of scope or anything like that, but like for me, being with feminine emotions, it can be challenging at times. It's I don't like to use the word unpredictable, but like if you look at some of David Data's work, he talks about how like the feminine is often like a wave of emotions, right? Where, and again, this is not meant to be insulting to women, but like men very much are kind of what you see is what you get when it comes to masculine emotion. um, and it's not better or worse, but like when we look at the feminine, oftentimes there's sort of a wave. The emotions, there's a variety of emotions I think that women can have, that when a man doesn't understand those emotions, it can be very challenging. It can be confronting. So that for me is one that I've always sort of struggled with, and over these last few years have gotten better at recognizing and being with the emotions that the feminine can bring. Another great book to look at, by the way, is The Way of the Superior Man by David Data, where he talks more about like the masculine feminine dynamics of emotion. And on the flip side, you could look at, this is the beauty of this, is you could look at, well, how are you relating to the masculine when it comes to fear of conversation? Again, I can look at both, childhood, and likely even when I was working for the corrections department, I had a very twisted view of masculinity there. It was very polarizing in a sense that, and so that that combination has really shaped, how I address conversations with men. Oftentimes I would say that if I was in a role of, of authority, I kind of had the authority, and not that I would ever take advantage of the authority, but like being in that authority role made it easier to act, because that's just, I sort of have like the law behind me in a sense. And again, I always sort of came at it from a tactical perspective, but then when you're out in the world and you don't have that, you're more cautious. That's what I would say. And so I know I'm getting kind of away from the intimate relationship part, but I really want to paint the picture of this dynamic and how it appears both for the masculine and feminine. And one of the things that's really helped me as I've exited that career and moved on has actually been coaching, has actually been in conversation with, 30 plus clients, primarily men over these last few years, where I'm having to deal with different emotions, different ways of being showing up in the conversation. And that over time has given me um, better range of ability in being with what shows up in front of me across the board. So that was, a bit of a tangent there, but really I want to paint that picture for you of really exploring where that fear comes from. So we've explored the benefits and the costs. You've created your list of the places that you feel that you haven't been accountable for, or you've let these conversations, fall away. and starting to explore some of the fears, some of the deeper meanings behind the fears that show up. So excellent work in that. The next place then to look at is action steps. Because if all we're going to do is just being in the thinking process of this, we create the benefit, we understand the benefits and the costs, and we create our lists and we understand our fears, but we don't take action, that is going to be very detrimental to the person, right? Because not only have we now not taken action in the past, we've now actually looked at the dynamics that are here and we're still in avoidance. That's again, everybody has to check in for themselves on that one, but that can be it can just be a place that can be very uncomfortable, and maybe some people have to stay there, but if you're in a place where you're like, "No, I'm ready to turn this around, it's time to start taking those action steps." And, here's the thing about it, there's no beating around the bush on this one. The place that I would really hold you to is, what's the first action step that you need to take on your list? What's a conversation that you need to have that you've been avoiding with your intimate partner? Um, and that's really at the heart of it. That's where to go with this. And um, it might be uncomfortable. It might be challenging. You might get resistance. But from what I've seen from the people that I've been in conversation with, is that being willing to kind of take that first step and have those conversations, that takes a big load off of our shoulders. It takes a lot of the weight that we've been holding on to for all these years. So really, really want to stand for you in having those conversations. And if you want to continue to push yourselves, find somebody that you can be accountable to. Don't just take on this on your own. Get involved in a support group, get a coach, um, get a friend who can support you in being accountable to this. But the place to really look at is looking at that list and having these conversations over time. Um, it's definitely That's the place to look. Um, Let me see if there's anything else I want to share on that. Again, if you want to expand this out, looking at what are some of the conversations you need to have with coworkers or friends or family. What have been the places that you've been avoiding? Stuff is not uh this stuff is not um intricate. This can be very easy, but it's all the things that we allow to get in the way that makes this stuff hard. The fears that we're talking to, that's the stuff that gets in our head that we need to break through, and oftentimes it just comes through conversation. I'm telling you, getting supported in this place is huge. Finding like-minded people who are on this journey with you as well. So, wow, it's amazing how 28 minutes go. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. I'd love to hear what you're taking away from this video, and what thoughts you have. And yeah, I'd love to hear, if you've applied any of this in your own life. So I'm gonna start to wind down here. But again, if you are looking for a higher level of support in this, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I've now launched a new one-on-one coaching program called the Foundations of Being. It's basically a 12 session program where the individual gets flexibility in using those sessions. So they get 12 sessions they can utilize over a year. They can use them as fast as they want or as slow as they want. And really, it gives the individual a taste of coaching and working with me and doing the deeper dive into the life that they want to create. So if this is something that you're interested in, please feel free to leave me a message in the comments or reach out on Messenger to me, and we can start the conversation around that. So yeah, thanks for checking this out. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.